Welcome back to the smulcast, where we are helping you live a healthier and fuller life. Today I am joined by my lovely guest, John McGrath, who is a high performance coach, a motivational speaker, and I think we all also know you as Africa's strongman.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I think we're going to be chatting a bit about habit building and how that kind of leads into living a healthier lifestyle, and also how that can tie into your expertise as a high performance coach, what you've kind of brought into your athletes, and how we can maybe, as humble, just everyday people, how we can kind of bring that into our lives. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me on the show. Thank you.
In windy Cape Town, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, beautiful. What a setting.
For those of us who don't know, could you maybe touch on a little bit about what got you into being, first off, what is a high performance coach, and what got you into the fitness industry, maybe even your motivational speaking?
Oh, okay. It's a long journey.
I can imagine,
Okay. So I'm Irish by birth, but South African by choice.
Nice.
I've been here
Same as my father.
14, 15 years, and it's my home now. Sport sort of changed my life.
Okay.
Sport was the vehicle for me which I could get out into the world, in a nutshell. I started the sport of rowing at 14 years of age and ended up rowing for Ireland. Injured my lower back and could never rehabilitate it to the degree where I could compete in rowing again. But it led me down a road of martial arts, where I ended up getting 4 black belts in 4 different styles of martial arts, and training with Bruce Lee's coach, Grandmaster Jihan Jay, fighting for Ireland. Also a great journey. So as well as studying sport at the Waterford Institute of Technology, that's been many, many years.
I mean, that's you just started in sport, and that's just then laid your whole and shifted your whole life. And I guess, put you on this highway where everything in your life now sounds like it is all surrounding sport.
And so it became something that was for me in the beginning, something that, to get me out into the world. And now it's my work is predominantly for others.
And that's where your coaching comes into
Absolutely,
it, right? Yeah. And you've worked with some amazing athletes from what I've read as well. Breaknettling. You've worked with some fantastic people.
Worked with many Olympic and world champions, Olympic medal winners.
Right,
cricket, amazing cricket players.
Absolutely, yeah.
The one thing that you find, that the important thing here is that I think each individual, there's no copy and paste here, each individual is so unique, and we call it the scaffolding that's required for each individual is completely unique, totally different. There's no one size fits all.
I mean, I think exactly the same in my profession with diet. When it comes to diet and everything, it's the exact same. So I completely understand what you're saying.
So, I guess the important things are, is you find out where you are. Where are we now? Maybe it's the same with you.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go? Yeah. And how do we close the gap between those two? I mean, it's as simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. But that's the process. What can we do to close the gap? Between where are you now and where world class is, what do we do?
Absolutely.
What are the following headings, from the technical parts, the tactical parts of what you do, the physical, the mental, all of that, And so it's, you break it down, you measure it, you break it down into components, and you make slow but steady progress on a daily basis in the direction of your dreams. And it's the same formula for any one of us who's, decides they want to get healthy, get fit, and it's a great, what a thing it is, what a joy it is to be healthy. I mean,
and a privilege, to be able to move our bodies, to be able to make these active decisions, to actually say, okay, I am going to choose to change my life and make these better decisions because I deserve it and I love my body.
That's an important word. You deserve it, Because a lot of people don't think, who am I to take the time to do this? It's actually, self-care isn't selfish, it's the greatest gift you can give yourself and for those who you love and
for sure
people in your workplace and in your community. So that's a great starting point to go I've got to put myself here, I've got to prioritize myself, because anything you do in life just is an overflow of who you are. So if you're not overflowing, you cannot give very little.
It's like that saying of you can't pour from an empty cup. And a lot with a lot of my clients, I've also realized the second that life gets busy, we are the first thing that we drop. So
Yeah.
like, you know, if I've got a whole lot of other things that I need to be prioritizing, the first thing that's going out the window for me is either going to the gym or, you know, I'm not going to be eating well that week. And
Yeah.
it's the case with so many of us. And it's so crazy how we are actually, like, we start disappointing ourselves before we would disappoint anyone else, rather.
Absolutely.
And I think it says a lot about where our priorities lie, and we need to be shifting that.
And at times like the times you spoke about is the times when you need it most to
For
keep,
sure.
you know, when everything is awry and things are moving and shaking, you need to create some stability,
For
you know.
sure.
And a lot of people look for outside to create the stability, but actually it needs to be created
Absolutely.
inside. You know,
Yeah.
we need to create your own disciplines, and
Yes.
we spoke about habits.
For sure.
You know, you need to create those, and that's what sustains us through
Absolutely.
the difficult times,
And I think,
which are many.
They never stop. The
They never
difficult
stop.
times never stop. And that's because a lot of people will always say, we're going to get our lives back on track when this busy period is over.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, that busy period almost never ends. So that's exactly what you're talking about. You have to have that stability in place. You have to know what is going to work for you so that you can get through that no matter how busy your life gets.
The outside is always a reflection of the inside.
Yeah.
So you can't change it from the outside. You have to change it from the inside. So long as,
Absolutely,
so when we change, our circumstances seem to change as well. And so that's why, you know, we advocate this strongly, doing that. You know, but the important thing is, you know, how do you do that on a daily basis? I guess, you know.
Yeah. So like I would love to actually know, obviously because you've worked with like such high level athletes, do you have any tips for our listeners maybe where they can like start with implementing some like very sustainable habits? Like what are some of the things that you would kind of implement within your athletes that we could maybe break down and bring it to our
I love
lives?
that you're talking about habits.
Yeah.
Because people use the word discipline, and that already has a connotation
It's
to
like
it, you know.
negative, and it sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
Habits is like, it's nice little things that we can do every single day.
So we are, all of us, wherever we're at listening to this or us having our conversation, we are our habits expressed. So if you want to change, you've actually got to change the habits.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So don't worry too much about discipline, but worry about creating habits.
Yeah.
Think about not only creating habits, but, you know, following with people who have similar interests. If you become interested in something, it tends to matter to you, right? So become, instead of looking at it in the negative way, this discipline, and I've got to go to the gym at 5 a.m. every morning. Think about, you know, who in my community is interested in this. And people tend to do things together in groups.
Yeah, I think community is massive in like actually getting you to stick to anything, even when it comes to exercise, for example. It's something that I've found in my exercise routine is what I rely heavily on, is like finding some kind of community.
So finding community is important. Finding a place where you fit in and a place that welcomes you. Yeah.
And that pushes you and like motivates you. Yeah.
And just getting, I mean, they say we make or break a habit in 21 days. 3 weeks, guys. You know, that's it. You know, if you can get beyond, if you can get beyond that, and if you can learn that some days you'll fall, that's okay, you know. But every day, people say, "Oh, Coach John, I fell off the bus." You know, guys, the bus comes around every day.
Every day, every hour. Honestly, you can make a decision to change that. You don't have to just let a whole day even get wasted.
And we've got to go back into the psychological part of it. Like, what is it about, you know, giving to ourselves? What is it about that, you know, that we deny?
Yeah.
Almost like a self-loathing, and when that gets, you get, you know. That you deny yourself those opportunities.
Yeah.
So become interested in it. You know, go to a place where you feel welcomed. Habitualize it. Yeah. Don't think too far down the road. Don't think about, you know, months down the road. I think it's important as well that if you measure where you are, you know, in whatever that means, you know. In terms of the amount, you know, there's in-body assessments.
There's a lot of ways
to measure it. But I think it's important to have a measurement because then you can see yourself improving. So, for instance, the one thing that, particularly with women, is some women put on weight when they begin to exercise because they gain lean muscle. And suddenly they step on the scales and they're jumping off and they say, "Coach, I'm done. I'm putting on weight." Just
no, I
relax.
get that.
So it's important that as well, you know, that you recognize these things and that you commit, you know, with those habits, you make commitment to yourself. And, you know, a commitment to yourself or the creation of a habit, or dare I use the word discipline, is actually an act of a great act of self-love, because it's prioritizing the long-term version of you over the short-term thing that you're going to do.
Absolutely.
So I think when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So it's important to view it that way. So that would be my first starting point to say, you know, that anybody, the body loves to move, and as you know, the body responds to exercise at 7 or 70 years old, and it's never too late to start. The best time to start is now. You know, but it's never too late. And amazing, unbelievable things can be achieved from a person who considers themselves ordinary.
For sure.
Can get like very close to, if not performing at world-class levels. Like I've seen that happen. And so...
And I think that has so much to do with like someone's mindset as well, and like what they, like we've spoken about mindset now already, and just like what they are wanting to achieve. And I think it's incredible when people actually, put what they want in place. And like if their mindset is right and they just want to go after what they want, and they find the right tools to do that, so they reach out to the right coaches and they put themselves in the right environment. It is so easy almost, like on paper, theoretically, it is almost so easy. It is actually just that implementation part, and then that's where every individual needs to find what it is, like their why, I guess, and like why they're going to keep going after it and showing up when it's cold in the mornings and dark and everything, why they're going to keep showing up for their habits.
The why will depend. I mean, it depends on age, it depends on lifestyle, it depends on what you're doing, I guess. But, you know, there's a saying as well, I mean, in the gym, you know, choose your pain.
Your hard or anything.
So, you know, you choose your hard, you choose your pain, you choose whether to, you know, the one thing that world-class athletes have is that they will prioritize their session in the gym. That will come
before
first,
everything.
Before anything else, you know?
Absolutely,
and so, you know, it's where is that in your life, you know? Or what are your priorities? You know, that's the question to ask, and to write them down, you know, because whatever is prioritized gets done in your life.
No,
you know?
for sure.
If you're going to watch YouTube for an hour, are you going to just watch TV for an hour? Are you just going to spend an hour on the phone to somebody just idly without doing anything? And eventually, there's a price to be paid for these decisions that you make.
What you did prioritize is going to show eventually.
Again, you know, that's going to show. And life has a way, I mean, we can talk about, I'm sure many of our audience will be over the age of 30 and going on. You know, sarcopenia as well, that's the aging disease. That's real.
Yeah, for sure.
That's happening.
So that's losing our lean muscle mass over time as we get older, which is a natural thing that happens. So that's why we also need to be so active about actually trying to counter that as we get older. And that's where a huge role of like strength and resistance exercises does come in.
And it can be counted.
Yes, it can
be. It can be stopped.
Okay,
So I know people have the same, you know, the same profile at 20 years of age as what they do at 50 and 60.
That's incredible.
It's possible to do.
And what did they do, for example? So like what would our exercises be that we would wanting to be incorporating to actually avoid that, for example, as we get older?
Okay, so I think there's a few. I think the resistance training is important.
Right.
You've got to have resistance training. You've got to have the muscle stimulus. Diet, massive.
They both go so hand in hand, which is really, you can't have one without the other.
Cannot make progress without those two. The most important, I mean, sleep, there's a lot of different things come after that, but they're the critical ones. I mean, obviously there's the anaerobic training as well as aerobic, level 2.
Right.
And I would say as well, you know, flexibility, I mean, as we age, we tend to lose mobility, flexibility, strength, increase in body fat. This is what happens. Left unchecked. This is what's going to happen. So in order to counter that, we need to be counter-measuring on all of those. We need to do Pilates, we need to do yoga, we need to do aerobic, we need to do anaerobic, we need to do resistance training. And you can find places where you can do all of those.
That's the thing. So it actually sounds like you're wanting to incorporate a little bit of like every form of exercise. You've got your strength and resistance, you've got your flexibility, mobility, you've got your cardiovascular activities. All of these things together is what we actually should be prioritizing.
Absolutely.
It's not just like one thing, being in the gym for 5 days a week.
And you can do those, I mean, as you know, I mean, less than an hour.
Yeah, of course.
In and out, it's not about like being a slave to it.
For sure.
you can do it. I mean, particularly if you mix them up, you know. If
Yes,
you do like
then
a
it actually
cardio or
doesn't feel like it
resistance
is so much work.
It's easier to absorb.
Yeah.
So I think they would be the top ones to
Amazing.
look after.
And then because like we just spoke about, it can feel a bit overwhelming if we're talking about now, we've just mentioned every single exercise group that there is out there. Of course, that can feel overwhelming. And I'm sure for someone who doesn't exercise at all at the moment, it can feel like that. And I know a lot of my clients also, they almost feel like they don't, it's like what we chatted about before we started here, how like people almost get so overwhelmed before they even start. Sure. They don't want to start then. Yeah. They would rather just sit at home and do nothing actually, because they don't want to even take that first step towards improving their life, because they feel like it's going to be really difficult to take that first step. And like what I see a lot of my clients struggling with as well is like, let's say they have started this journey, they've taken the step, then they fall off the wagon and they say, okay, you know what, it's been Easter weekend or whatever the case was now, I didn't get to go to the gym at all, I didn't get to do my runs at all, I completely didn't follow my diet or whatever the case is, which is all very understandable. So what is it that you kind of tell your clients, you know, when it comes to making progress rather than like trying to be perfect? Because that's what I always try to come back to like my clients about, like how we've spoken about that bus comes around every single day. Like, what can you tell them about like actually being consistent rather than like striving for that perfect thing, which is impossible?
I guess to fail or to err is human.
Yeah.
Okay? That's number one.
So true.
And we all have days, myself included, you know, where we fail.
Yeah.
Not too many, you know, but it does happen. So
I love that you said yourself included. It just is like, we're all human. It happens to everyone.
It does happen to everyone. Yeah. So to accept that, number one.
Yeah.
And to put it behind you, you know, and to focus on, well, what's the solution here?
That's it, yeah.
The solution is to get back on the bus and get back going. And will I be a bit sore for a day or two?
Yes.
Possibly, maybe not.
Maybe.
But
that's
maybe
okay,
not.
you're not going to die, it's not going to kill you. It's better than putting it off for 2 or 3 weeks before you decide, okay,
Absolutely.
let's try again.
Yeah, and it's about the long term. I mean, how do we want to, you know, I think we're, in our, if you don't mind me throwing you and me into the same generation, in our generation, the things that lie ahead by the time we get into our 60s and 70s is unbelievable in terms of living an incredible life into 80s, 90s and beyond. These with the possibilities that are out there. And, you know, how do you want to live the last 20, 30 years of your life?
Yeah.
That's like, you know, maybe when you're 20, it's a long way, you think it's never going to come, but it happens like that. But for people like who are 30, 40, 50, I mean, do you want to live quality, I mean, real quality?
Yeah, for sure.
Like with the physical capacities of a 20 to 30-year-old.
Which is so possible.
And the wisdom that comes with age. You can have the best of both worlds.
You can have your cake and eat it.
You can, literally.
Exactly.
You can do that.
I actually heard this like fantastic analogy called like your body pension or something like that, where obviously when it comes to like you're just like investing in your general pension that everyone knows about, the best time to start investing is 10 years ago, the second best time is like today kind of thing. And it's like so similar when it comes to our bodies as well. Like, of course, everyone should have started exercising and doing all these things to kind of ensure that you are going to have this fantastic life as a senior 10 years ago. But the second best time is to start today. It's almost like, of course, it's still going to be beneficial when you get to 60, but it's not going to have the same impact as if we had started today. So it's like such a nice concept. And I think it's so important to get people to realize as well that like we should be starting today. And it's small things. We're also not asking everyone to, you know, completely go burn themselves out every single day and every single week, because obviously that's also not healthy. So actually just like touching on that as well, do you ever like see people that struggle with like burnout and like actually taking their exercise all the way to the extreme side, and like maybe what's like a good, or like what are some like good pointers to kind of make sure that we are balancing and having like a good balance between actually just keeping it healthy and then going to like that other extreme side?
I do experience that. First of all, I'm definitely going to use that pension. That's a very good, I'm going to steal that from you.
Go for it.
Full credits.
I heard it from somewhere else.
To be honest, it's not something that most people should have to worry about.
Right.
You know, because most people are more likely to do less than more. Okay?
True.
So occasionally it can happen, but it's very infrequent. We just say, you know, your body, as you know, your muscles grow when you rest. Right.
Which is why rest is so important, and people don't know that.
So if you're not resting, you're just on the hamster wheel.
Training all the time.
You're on the hamster wheel of training, and you're not getting results. People who are doing half what you're doing are getting better results.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I think that's, I would be phrasing it like that. And it's quite easy to identify when we know. And there's the A-type personality. And I think when you frame it as such, it works very well. But as I say, it's far likely that people will do less in general than more, you know.
No, that's actually true. Yeah, and I think that, like actual like physical burnout is probably pretty hard to achieve. I think like what I see quite a bit with my clients is people that like almost overextend themselves or like overcommit themselves. So again, someone who doesn't go from goes from like training once a week and now all of a sudden gets this like kick in their day and they're like, great, I'm gonna now start training 6 days a week or like double sessions and stuff like that. And even if they aren't pushing themselves to the max in that session, I think just like mentally having committed to this insanely high goal and then just not being able to reach it, mentally that definitely can discourage people, I think. And like that's like a whole other conversation that we need to be having with our clients and people, and being able to say, you need to manage your expectations, you need to actually make sure that this is realistic and sustainable so that you can do it long term. Otherwise, only doing it for a month isn't going to actually get you anywhere either.
It definitely does take time, you know. And part of the problem is that, you know, supposing you're 40 years old and you come back into it after 20 years, in that your brain still feels like I can bench 100. But the body isn't thinking that at all. You know?
For sure. You need to.
And so it takes a while to merge that again, you know, and to bring those two back together again. And you've got to be patient with that. You can get extraordinary results can come, but they've got to be built on a base, in a solid, good foundation first, you know. So that's something I've often seen.
No, for sure. And I think if people don't listen to that, that's where injuries start to come into play as well. And I know just also like being in training and being active for a huge part of my life as well. I know that if you're not listening to your body and you start over, committing yourself and not listening, checking in with yourself, that's where injuries happen. That can set you back so much more than people realize.
And there's the other thing, I mean, for people who are, I've seen it like padel is a huge, it's great, right?
Yes, it's the new epidemic.
We love it, but, I mean, most people, a lot of people who come back and they're getting into fitness later,
right.
in their 30s, 40s and 50s, which is great, we love it. But you've got to be very strong to accelerate, to decelerate,
I was about to say,
multi-directional.
It's so much like short bursts of movement, which people who haven't been like active for a long time, they see it as a small court and they're like, great, I can do this. And you're like...
a lot of injuries come.
For sure,
and again, because your eye and your brain is... that doesn't change, from when you were like 15 or 18. You know where the ball's going to be. But the legs don't often take you. Sometimes the legs don't get you there. And you've got to stretch that little extra bit, and that's where the problem comes in.
And that little extra bit can really put you up.
So like I really advocate being patient with that as well.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, injury is very unpleasant.
Yeah, for sure.
And it can be difficult, it depends on the injury, but it can be difficult and problematic to work around as well.
Absolutely.
And, keeping yourself on the pitch, so as to speak,
for sure,
for as long as possible. That's what the game is about.
Once you're injured, then you're out for a few weeks, and that can also like affect people a lot. So like what I've seen with a lot of my clients who either are injured or even just like sick or something, and are almost like forced to take time out. I see a huge dip in their like mental health as well. So I don't know if we want to quickly touch on just the link between physical activity and mental health.
Where do we start?
So let's start with, do you think there is a link between the two?
I think it's undeniable.
Right,
It's undeniable. And I think in the Western world, almost like 1 in every 2 people are suffering from some sort of anxiety or stress, okay?
How insane are those numbers?
Like 1 in every 2. I think particularly...
That literally means between the two of us, one of us could be sitting.
Except with us, I don't think it's...
True, I mean, we're both very active, so
at least we can't admit to it here.
There we go.
But I was reading a study with the University of Southern Australia. And they found... it's always good to back it up. Anecdotally, we know it ourselves and we feel it, but it's also good to back it up with science.
Always.
That the most significant thing you can do to change your brain, to feel better, is to exercise. All types of exercise, including hit as well. We don't, the endorphin release, the dopamine, the serotonin.
Yeah.
It's the most positive thing you can do. It changes your energy, it changes your perspective.
Yeah.
And it's been scientifically proven over and over again now at this stage. So in as little as, it does it on a daily basis. So personally, what I find, I'm not somebody who gets up in the morning and say, yay, I want to hit the gym.
It's cold and dark outside. Let's go to the gym.
I've trained almost every day, like for the last maybe 40 years.
Right.
And most days I don't want to gym. I don't want to gym. That's why it's important that we habitualize this thing.
There we go. Yeah, I was going to say, it comes
it's
right
okay
back
for you,
to
coach.
habit.
You love gymming. I don't love gymming. I love how gymming makes me feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love.
Right.
Physically and mentally, how I feel. So I create the habit. I make a commitment to somebody. I'll see you at 4 o'clock.
Right.
I won't let that person down.
That's the thing.
Coach John let me down.
If it's just you, it's a different story.
I'm not going to be that one. So I make commitments. I'm part of a community, and I like to. If I can, I like to train in the morning because I get that all of those positive chemicals flowing through me, feeling better, feeling more positive, increased creativity, increased focus, and feeling better for the day. But it only lasts for 24 hours. And then you have to redo it. You got to redo it again.
Yeah.
But it's such a feeling.
No, it's incredible. And I think, like you said, like that habit and actually getting there, I think a lot of people think, because we're in this industry, it's so easy for us. And it isn't the case. It is every morning a bit of a little struggle when your alarm first goes off and you have that split second where you're like, maybe I don't want to go.
Your mind starts, I'm very ordinary when it comes, my mind starts making an excuse immediately.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
Coach John, you deserve it. You deserve a rest. Come on, you've done 4 or 5 days in a row.
There we
you
go.
get the day off now. You love it, and but will you ever be happy having taken a day off that you were supposed to train? You'll never go to sleep content. You'll never be happy, and so what I'll always say to a lot of people I work with, that we're all addicts.
Yes.
Some of us get to choose our addictions.
Right.
So I get to choose my addiction, which is getting at the gym, getting the blood flowing and all those positive chemicals flowing through my bloodstream for the day, so that I can be in a position of overflow for the day, and I can contribute to the lives of others as well. So
absolutely.
Yeah, but it's a big thing.
It is.
It's the mental things, and it's not easy out there,
It isn't, and I think
it really isn't.
Like people also need to understand is that just to reap some of those benefits, like the ones we were talking about the positive hormones that are flowing and those great neurotransmitters that we're going to get that get excreted after exercise, it doesn't mean you have to go for a 10K run or go to the gym and get some crazy PBs for an hour and a half. It can literally be happening from something as simple as like a 30-minute walk outside. You can take whatever baby steps that it is, so you don't have to jump to the level that we are at because we've been training for so long. Whatever that looks like for you, any form of exercise, I think is like a fantastic way to actually get those benefits already, which is nice for people to know.
It is. A walk is good, a jog is good, and it doesn't have to be at 100%.
Yeah. Whatever you can show up as that day.
I do come back though to if you are going to walk with others, commit to walking with others, or if it's a walking club or a group or whatever. Because if it's just left up to yourself, I think it's going to rain today,
Not a cloud in the sky, but you never know.
So it's important, whatever it is that you decide to do, I think as we spoke, we keep coming up with the habits and habitualizing it.
But it's crazy how with everything that we have spoken about, it does just come back to habit and how those are so important to find out what are the ones that you want to prioritize, which ones are the ones that you are going to focus on working into a daily routine and then sticking through with those, because that is what literally we've spoken about, the training, we've spoken about diet, we've spoken about just what we're going to be in 70 years and all of that. And it all does really come back to habit and what we're going to be focusing on. So I think it is such an important concept.
And people who you surround yourself with.
There we go. That environment is plays a massive role.
They say you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with in the world, right?
I hugely believe that.
Yeah. So in every way, right down to your bank balance, whatever it is, you become the average of those.
So
if you want to change who you are, you've obviously got to bring some new people into your life. So if health is a goal, start hanging with some healthy people here.
Sure,
it doesn't mean you got to leave other friends behind, but you got to pull them into your circle because you're becoming them automatically. in karate, there's a saying, it's got ishin doshin. It means that we impact each other indirectly without any words being said. So that's the effect
That's
other people
incredible. Hey, yeah.
have on us, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to be, that's why you train in karate in groups and you train together. All of the rest of it's important. You've got to be doing that. It's critical.
No, absolutely, yeah. Well, thank you so much for that. Are there any last like words or anything that you'd love to like summarize with this chat that we've had today for any of our listeners out there?
So yeah, there's no such thing as ordinary people. There's ordinary people who can do a little bit more every day. You can become extraordinary. It's taking the first steps. Just having the courage to take the first step. You know, the cliches are real. You know, if you're doing something that your future self will really thank you for, that your family will thank you for, your community will thank you for. Otherwise, you know, playing small. None of us are here to play small. To play small. Each one of us has a gift that must be brought out, and that's unique. But it'll be very difficult to bring that out without, you know, without being healthy, without being increased, you know, your positivity. So I really advocate health as a cornerstone. Without that, all the rest, I mean, you know, if you don't have health, even wealth, you know, the appreciation for art or theater or things in life is useless without one's health. So that is our cornerstone. That's what we've got to prioritize. We've got to pour into that, in other words, that we can overflow and pour into the lives of others and the community at large.
Yeah, so take that first step to get towards that. I can definitely tell you're a motivational speaker. I'm feeling motivated right now. But awesome. Then thank you so much, John, for joining us. I really loved our chat.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really fantastic to chat to you about this and get your insight on all of it. I think we could carry on for ages
hours.
as well. So yeah. But thank you everyone for listening in. If you'd like any more information about myself or my lovely guest, John, or if you want to listen to any of our other episodes, you can do so at smul.com.